one goes out to all my fellow Leafs fans this morning. Yes, that's right. My fellow Leafs fans, of which I am absolutely one. Did they change the playoff format? Gary Bettman, what happened? Is this a best of 5 now? Is the series over already? Come on with your coming on. You know what I enjoyed more than anything else last night? As the Leafs game got more and more out of control, and yes, made me sadder and sadder as the night went on. What I enjoyed was scrolling Twitter or X or whatever the heck we call that platform, and just reading post after post after post of Leafs fans utterly imploding. It's not over. You have to win 4. You gotta win 4 games to win a series. I know the Leafs were up 2-0 in this series. Now they're down 3-2, but they get to play again tomorrow night. And who knows, right? Who knows? Maybe one of my favorite texts last night was from a buddy who said, "Props to the Leafs. They can't hurt me anymore. I am fully conditioned and primed for these moments." Maybe that's why I am so nonchalant about this. They're playing the defending champs. Listen, the Leafs have a good team. Florida has a really good team. Maybe we need a better team. I don't know. But I know this for sure, okay? The series is not over. The Leafs have not been eliminated from the playoffs yet. Maybe in your mind they have. But to my fellow Leafs fans this morning, don't stop believing. And feel free to treat Friday night just like I treated last night, as a good excuse for a couple of wobbly pops and some junk food. All right, let's get to that Farwell Show 5 for this Thursday morning, the 15th of May. Yes, the day after the Leafs fell behind 3-2. 3-2. The series is not over in their playoff series versus Florida. Number 1 on your Farwell 5, the region has secured enough land in Wilmot Township to create an industrial megasite. The region announcing yesterday that it now has agreements on 550 of the 770 acres it's been trying for many months to assemble. Regional Chair Karen Redmond joins the show this morning at 9:15 to talk about it. Number 2, ongoing concerns over the measles has led to the closure of a high school in Kitchener. Eastwood Collegiate says a confirmed case of the measles has been identified at the school, forcing its closure so public health can complete the required steps in vaccination certification. Eastwood says the measles case also caused exposures last week on May 7th and 8th. Public health is following up with people who may have been exposed to this case and will work with the school to notify them of their required next steps. Number 3 on your Farwell Show 5 this morning, Ontario Premier Doug Ford signaling that his government's budget will favor spending over balanced books as a way to keep the economy afloat in light of U.S. President Donald Trump's tariffs. Finance Minister Peter Bethlen-Falvey is set to table the 2025-26 budget later today. Ford has said the province can always balance the budget in a year or two. Isn't that kind of what Prime Minister Trudeau said? The budget will balance itself. Anyway, Ford says balance it, later. But for now, he wants to spend on infrastructure and programs to keep people employed or get them retrained. You'll get local reaction to the budget throughout the afternoon with Aaron Anderson and Paul McPhee on all news afternoons here on 570 News Radio. Number 4, one Canadian team is into the Final Four of the Stanley Cup playoffs, while 2 more now fighting for their playoff lives. And for newcomers to Canada, embracing hockey has become part of embracing their new life in Canada. Mikhailo Ivanov says he didn't know much about hockey when he fled the war in Ukraine and settled in Winnipeg, but he fell in love with the sport after he was given tickets to a Jets game. Christine Munch says when she and her husband first moved to Toronto from France about 18 months ago, they tried watching football and basketball to help them adjust to Canadian life, but it was the Leafs that really captured their hearts. The Leafs and Jets are facing elimination in the playoffs, and Winnipeg plays Dallas tonight. Toronto faces Florida tomorrow. Edmonton, though, They've moved on to the Final Four, knocking off Vegas last night in overtime to advance to the Western Conference Final. And number 5 on your Farwell Show 5 this morning, the St. Jacobs Market celebrates 50 years, and they did so with a pancake breakfast this morning at the market. What started as a livestock exchange back in 1975, the St. Jacobs Market now welcomes 1 million visitors every year. And that is your Farwell Show 5 for this Thursday morning, the 15th of May. So the region has secured agreements on 550 of the 770 acres of land in Wilmot Township. The assembly now substantially complete. What next? We'll talk about it next on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. As we learned yesterday afternoon, our regional government has successfully secured about 550 acres of land in Wilmot Township. This is a story that goes back many, many months now, an effort to acquire 770 acres of land in Wilmot for a future industrial mega site. What they have now, the region, with the 550 or so acres, does qualify as a mega site. Regional Chair Karen Redmond joins the program to talk about it. Chair Redmond, good morning.
Good morning, Mike.
Because this land now does qualify as a mega site with 550 acres, does work continue after that final 200 or so acres of land?
So I would tell you that one of the reasons why we wanted to make this announcement of achieving 70% was to let the community know that there will be people on the land performing archaeology and hydrology and a whole bunch of sort of due diligence as we move forward. We've always said, Mike, that we will have a respectful relationship with the landowners, and we've been able to have fair and equitable deals with them, and so we will continue to do that.
So given what we will be seeing on the land then with this due diligence being done, Chair Redmond, is it possible that through this process something comes up that determines this land is not suitable, it wouldn't be safe for water table, et cetera, for future industrial use?
We're confident with the due diligence we have done, and as we go forward, that this project will continue, Mike. We've said all along we don't have an end user, so while we're doing sort of general due diligence, when and if somebody comes along that would like to acquire the land, we would then have to do further studies to make sure that whatever their needs were met didn't stress or in any way impact negatively our water system, our wastewater.
What is the purpose of the due diligence? What sorts of things will we be looking for here?
Gosh, there's about 35 things on the list. There will be archaeological investigation. There will be hydrology tests. There will be all manner of tests. I actually don't have the list in front of me, but it's really quite extensive.
Okay. And in the meantime, as this work is being done, will any of the land still be used to grow food?
So we've made a commitment that any crops that have been planted will be harvested when they're ready, and there is some land that there will be some farming on. One of the concerns was soil erosion, so we're working with the GRCA to look at what kind of farming crops could be planted on land that's already had their due diligence done to make sure that we mitigate that.
We know, Chair Redmond, that this effort on the region's part has not been without controversy or pushback. Why is the region so insistent that this land is necessary?
So when we look at the past record, Mike, we have lost about $10 billion of investment and thousands of jobs. For tire kickers that came to the region, were really impressed with our skilled workforce, our highly educated workforce, and found that we didn't have a mega site. And we know for a fact that I think it's about $4.1 billion specifically moved to other communities, and that's about 5,000 jobs because we didn't have a mega site. So we recognize that this is something that we needed to have in a shovel-ready form so that when global investment comes or when there's employers within the region that want to expand, we can say, yes, here's a piece of land. And we know that we've missed out on a lot of investment. And we also know that we're growing to be 1 million people by 2051. And we need to have good local jobs and intergenerational jobs. And this mega site will allow us to be in the competition for that kind of employment.
What does the timeline look like until this land could be ready for industrial use?
Well, there's still lots of hurdles to go over. We have to do all of our due diligence. We have to do site servicing. So there's still many steps to go through. And I think that's one of the reasons why it underscores that having shovel-ready land is what people who want to invest are looking for, so that we don't have to say to them, come back in 18 months or 2 years and we'll have the land ready for you.
How much did it cost us to assemble all of this land?
That's not something we're discussing at this point in time because negotiations are still going on, Mike.
Are you comfortable with the way this entire story has played out in terms of the negotiations and the pushback that I know you did here as well? Are you comfortable with the way this has turned out?
So what I'm hearing are people are quietly supportive and have been all along and recognize that we need to have a vision as we move forward to 1 million people. We can either react to growth or we can help shape it. So this is an investment. It was part of our regional official plan when we tabled it, and we knew that this was an area that we were deficit in, so we have gone to make this investment and amass this land assembly. So lots of voices recognize the vision that is necessary in order to accommodate a thriving community of 1 million people.
And what makes this particular land the important land to assemble, as opposed to something out on the east side by the airport, for example?
So I do want to also underscore that there are lots of tire kickers, and we do have other plots of land. We just didn't have a mega site. This land in particular is close to transit. It's great for access to the 401. It has hydro readily available and is not on an aquifer. So for those reasons, this one came out on top as a place that would be very attractive to a variety of end users, whoever that ends up being.
Chair Redmond, I appreciate your time on the show this morning. Thank you very much for being here.
Thanks for your interest in this, Mike.
Enjoy your day. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Karen Redmond is the chair of our regional government, shares what information she can. I knew going in that the answer to the question of how much has this cost us anyway would go unanswered. But here we are. 550 of the 770 acres has been secured. The agreements are in place with those landowners. And after all of these many months and all of the pushback and criticism that we heard, the land has been substantially acquired by the region of Waterloo. So I guess, I mean, could we say, would it be fair at this point to say everybody, I guess everybody does have a price. Ultimately, there is no expropriation here. So agreements were reached with these landowners, 550 acres, and now the future industrial megasite is at least moving forward. Your thoughts? Always happy to hear them on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Wendy sends an email to Mike at 570news.com. The Wilmot Land Assembly is farmland, prime farmland, period. The end, full stop. That's the only thing the region and municipalities should be considering. As elected officials, it's their job to protect the resources in their jurisdiction. Sure, they'll get some incentives from the province and maybe the feds, but what will they do? Get a few million and spend a few billion and destroy a valuable resource in the process? Regional councils should be ashamed. I'll just add to that, Wendy. Look, it's not the only farmland in the region. I get it, though. This is land that was, yes, being farmed for crops. Absolutely, it was. And the other side of that story is when 1 million people are living here, where will the jobs be for them to earn money at? They got to be somewhere. That's the counter to it, but I hear where you're coming from. Let's go to the phones. Joe, good morning.
Morning, Mike. What is the definition of insanity?
Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result.
Yeah. Nobody cares what you did in the regular season. It's virtually irrelevant. I'm going to put on my GM hat and...
Okay, hang on, Joe, I'm sorry. I'm not going to talk about the Leafs right now, okay? We're on to the Land Assembly, if you don't mind. Doug, good morning.
Thanks for taking my call, Mike. I got a couple of points here. In the United States, the Chinese and all kinds of industrialists have been acquiring farmland to put it out of use. We all can't forget that huge picture on the front of the record where, as far as the eye could see, they plowed in perfectly good crops. That could have fed cattle if it was cattle corn. What are these million people going to eat? And with all these tariffs and people announcing with corporations that they're moving their production to the United States, and with the poor value of our dollar, who would invest here? It's hogwash. If you can control the food, you can control the people. And this is happening all over North America. All you have to do is a search. These people of the region are nothing more but Illuminati, one world government, yes people.
Okay, Doug. Okay. Look, I get the concern over the food supply. I do. I'll remind you that throughout this process, we were told that these 770 acres make up, I believe it was just over 1% of the entirety of the farmland in the community. It's not comfortable. These are really difficult decisions that have to be made. And along the way, here we are, 70% complete and no expropriation. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio.
This is where today's topics turn into today's talking points. It's local and it's Democratic radio at its finest. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio.
We have one notice of motion this evening. We're not going to continue having motions read on their notice of motions. This one will be brought to the floor on May 27th, and Councillor Hamilton will read his motion then. This is a motion concerning supporting the need for provincial action on salt pollution from road salt.
The Mike Farwell Show continues
on 570 News Radio.
Oh, procedure. That's Cambridge Mayor Jan Liggett at the meeting of Cambridge Council on Tuesday night. And procedure dictates that one who wishes to bring forward a motion for debate with their fellow councillors must first bring forward that notice of motion. And in order to save time and duplication, they're not reading out the notices of motion, just letting you know, and it'll be in your agenda. And then you'll deal with it in 2 weeks' time. So what's behind the motion? Well, it's being brought forward by Ward 7 Councillor Scott Hamilton in Cambridge, who joins our show this morning. Good morning, Scott.
Good morning, Mike. How are you doing today?
I'm doing just fine, thanks. How are you?
You know what? The sun is shining. The rain's not here yet, so I can't complain.
I'm with you on that one for sure. You know, though, if we get some rain, it can wash away some more of that salt residue that might be sticking around after a long winter and heavy use of salt on our roads. What is it that you're hoping to accomplish with the motion that will be discussed at Cambridge Council in a couple of weeks?
That was an excellent segue, Mike, between the rain and the salt. That was awesome. The motion that I'm hoping to have passed through Cambridge City Council is calling on the province for action to reduce salt pollution caused by road salt that we use in winter. Not only on roads, but also we as the public use it on our sidewalks and our walkways. Because right now we're finding that we're really overusing salt. We need a little bit of salt. We end up just covering our sidewalks and our roads. And this is having a pretty substantial impact. First on our environment. Like the salt doesn't disappear, right? The rain doesn't make the salt vanish. The rain actually pushes that salt, the sodium chloride, deep into our soil, into our creeks, into our riverbeds, into our streams and lakes, and then it pushes it into our drinking water. So not only does it kill some life in the bottom of our ecosystems, but it actually goes into our drinking water and desalination. Removing salt from water is a very costly process, and it's bad for our health as well. And the other reason I'd like to bring this motion forward, Mike, is that as municipalities everywhere, we're struggling with the ballooning costs of infrastructure seemingly everywhere. And what salt is a corrosive agent. So the more salt we use, the more we're actually going to see damage to our roads, to our bridges, and especially to our cars. Because when you see rust in cars in Ontario, and you go to places like Alberta where they don't use salt and there is no rust, well, there's a reason for that. It's because we're over-salting, and it's causing not only damage to our infrastructure and our vehicles, but also to our drinking water and to our environment.
I can certainly understand that destruction you're talking about and the ballooning costs associated with it, Scott, but I think the elephant in the room that you know well is there. In the absence of that use of salt, how will municipalities deal with the ballooning costs of litigation?
So the catch is, I'm not saying everyone throw your salt away, we're never going to use this again. There's no question that salt is an incredibly effective agent when it comes to de-icing, as long as we're within certain temperatures. Once it goes down below minus 13, minus 14, salt doesn't have any effect. But the key is to use less salt, right? So the mantra here is a little bit of salt goes a long way. But frequently we see that on our roads and especially on our walkways, everything's just covered in salt and just coated. So it's really the overuse that we're trying to get at here, Mike. And when you talk about liability, one of the aspects of the motion is to request the province to introduce something called limited liability legislation. And what this means is that if you're a contractor, or if you're a city, let's say, or person in the public, if you're, well, preferably these are for contractors, it's quite a complex mechanism, but if you're a contractor and you're hired by a city to, let's say, protect a parking lot, to put salt on it, right now contractors feel a lot of pressure to completely over-salt, to just cover it in salt, because they don't want anyone to get slip on any ice and then sue them, saying, hey, these guys didn't salt enough, I'm going to sue you for, malfeasance or whatever. So what limited liability legislation would do is say, if you're a contractor, if you can get certified, if you can come through, learn these best management practices, you can learn how much salt is actually required for that. It's regulated, and that way you can actually put down a lot less salt than you do now, and you actually protect those waterways, the drinking water, by a substantial margin. And there have been studies by the University of Waterloo's Water Institute and the University of Toronto that says, yes, if you do introduce best management practices and this limited liability legislation, it does substantially reduce the amount of salt used, while still protecting the public as well and ensuring they don't slip if the weather, in fact, does get a bit cold and icy.
Is it that limited liability legislation, Scott, the requirement for it, that means or that requires the province's support on this then? Because that has to come provincially?
I'd say primarily, right? Like they have jurisdiction over this. They're the governing regulatory authority. So unless it comes from the province, I think you're going to have this kind of patchwork of enforcement that's done for every region and municipality. And I think in this case, it's actually quite rare, but in this case, I think it's beneficial where you have, you could say, all three sides of the triangle on the same side. You have governments that want some type of regulatory authority here. You have private contractors, like Landscape Ontario. They're pushing very hard for this because they see the need, and they also see the reduction in cost, right? Because, hey, if you're not using as much salt, you're not paying for as much. And you also have the public that's very supportive of this as well, because people want their drinking water protected, they want their environment protected. People see the need for it. But the catch is you do need that one overarching authority figure to come in and say, all right, we're setting the regulatory framework, we're going to protect people that are in charge of using salt the most, and we're going to ensure those standards and guidelines are in place to protect both the public and the private sector from the risks of oversalting. So it is that's required, and that's why you see this motion kind of going around the province right now. And I think it's very timely, and it's very well written. It's composed primarily by the Ontario Salt Pollution Coalition. They've done a great job on it. And when I first became a councillor back in 2020, I actually approached our staff saying, we're oversalting like crazy in Waterloo Region. What do we do? And the answer was, well, this is provincial jurisdiction. Right now, there's not much we can do. So when I saw this motion going around, I thought this is a fantastic opportunity to try and bring some provincial uniformity to what is a very complex patchwork approach to what is increasingly a growing problem. And unless we deal with it now, Mike, it's just going to get much worse because we see the growth that's coming to our region, to the province. And with growth comes a lot more salt, a lot more roads, a lot more infrastructure, and potentially a lot more damage unless we address it today.
We will be watching with interest when it comes to Council for discussion on May the 27th. Scott, thanks very much for joining the show this morning.
Thanks much for your time, Mike. Appreciate it. You have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Scott Hamilton is the Ward 7 councillor in Cambridge. His motion follows a similar one brought to Waterloo Council. I think it was Councillor Julie Wright. Forgive me if I've got the councillor wrong who championed it, but nonetheless, Waterloo Council also talking about this. You heard Scott say similar motions are being brought to councils across the province. And I don't think we're going to get any argument on the show this morning around the idea or the understanding that salt is absolutely overused. I don't think there's any question about that. The challenge becomes, how do we effectively reduce its use? Because we know, and if you've talked to any contractor who manages any property in the winter, of course they're going to oversalt, because even though it costs more in supplies for the salt to oversalt, oversalting still costs less than any subsequent litigation that you have to deal with or lawsuit that you face, right? These contractors pay inordinate insurance premiums. I've heard of some smaller businesses that have gotten out of the business altogether because the insurance premiums make it a business model that just doesn't work for them anymore. So, yes, I think we need to reduce our use of salt. How we go about doing that, and with whether or not the province comes on board with limited liability legislation, I guess remains to be seen. Your thoughts on how we effectively reduce the use of salt? I would apply this to roads too. Right? We have this idea that the only road we can drive in the winter is a bare, dry one. Come on with your coming on here. Like, what happened to the responsibility of the operator of the vehicle to drive according to the conditions and maybe, just maybe, put on some snow tires? How do we reduce the use of salt in the wintertime? Let me know your thoughts on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
Limited liability legislation would do is say, if you're a contractor, if you can get certified, if you can come through, learn these best management practices, you can learn how much salt is actually required for that. It's regulated, and that way you can actually put down a lot less salt than you do now, and you actually protect those waterways, the drinking water, by a substantial margin.
Scott Hamilton is the Ward 7 councillor in Cambridge. He brings forward a notice of motion that will be discussed at Cambridge Council's meeting on the 27th, so 2 weeks from now, about reducing the use of salt. We know the environmental impact. We know the erosion of our infrastructure, including our personal vehicles, because of the use of salt. And I think we intuitively understand that salt is overused, because if it ain't, the person responsible for keeping that parking lot or sidewalk clear is subject to litigation. So this will require the support of the province through limited liability legislation, and whether or not the province wishes to create such legislation. Dennis sends an email to Mike at 570news.com, says, the motion sounds really good, but I see two problems. One, the province has to actually pass the law, absolutely. And two, the judges actually have to use it. Interesting point. Dennis goes on to say, I know guys who do parking lots for snow, and they essentially make it white with salt. The one guy got sued because someone was walking through a snowy garden by the parking lot that was salted and still got sued. This is one of the challenges I have. I hear our commercials every winter from the region about being smart about salt, and then I make my way oot and a boot in this community. And I get it. Like, I'm not for 1 second, am I blaming the contractor who's responsible for keeping the parking lot and or the sidewalk clear. I'm not blaming. I get it. Their insurance premiums are exorbitant and they're subject to litigation. Here's what I wish. It's wintertime, okay? Be careful out there. Wear sensible footwear. If you're walking around in your favorite pair of Nikes in February and you slip and fall, I don't have a whole lot of sympathy for you. I'm sorry, but I don't. That's just me. Let's go to the phones. Jim, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Mike.
What do you think? What's on your mind?
I totally agree with what you just said. I think the other thing that they didn't talk about is if you live in the city of Kitchener and you have like 4 drops of snow on your sidewalk, they'll come by and potentially give you a $100 fine. So the city also needs to kind of back off a little bit and realize that, there's a lot of common sense that's missing today from the whole thing, from wearing good footwear, driving appropriately. And you know what? If it's really just an ice storm or whatever, maybe just stay inside for a little bit,
Jim, I hear you. I appreciate the call. And, that's a good point on the city's part. I remember I didn't mean to cause the kerfluffle that I did, but boy, did I cause a kerfuffle. That's what I did. I caused the kerfuffle. It got picked up by, I don't know, some blog in Toronto, whatever. It doesn't matter. I took a picture because we got a warning at home. And I'm pretty anal about keeping the sidewalk clear. Even the driveway. Like, ask my beloved. She'll tell you. She thinks I'm a little bit nuts when it comes to the snow clearing. Anyway, winters, right? It's going to be a winter. But I'm really meticulous about keeping the sidewalk down to the pavement, et cetera, et cetera. But at this particular point in the winter a couple of years ago, there were some little spots. Little spots. I'm not joking about little spots. The sidewalk was generally clear, right down to the pavement. But there were little spots where ice had formed because water had gathered, whatever. Tiny little patches. The furthest thing from dangerous, in my opinion. But the city came by and issued the warning. Hey, you got 24 hours or we're going to bill you. I'm like, come on. So I posted a picture. I'm like, this is the sidewalk that I just got cited for in the city of Kitchener. And it went completely viral online. I didn't mean for that to happen. But the reality is exactly what Jim talks about. It ain't nobody slipping on that sidewalk. And yet I could have faced a pretty hefty fine from the city of Kitchener because I didn't have it clear enough. And look, I shared this story too, out walking Rosie the pandemic pup one night as we were kind of starting to work our way towards spring. And there's a house I was walking by, and I could see from well back that they had a real poor design for their downspout, which pointed down a very, very short driveway on a slope onto the sidewalk. And the water running from that downspout, as the temperature changed during the day, we were walking in the evening, it had frozen over. Like now that was full on a patch of ice, very slippery, very dangerous on the sidewalk. What did I do? I took my time. I was very careful. And I said to myself, I just walking along this, how I talk to myself. Well, what if I slip and fall here? I'm like, well, then you're an idiot because you see the ice, you know it's there. You're going to take extra care when you get there. And if I did slip and fall, what would I do? I would just try to encourage that person to change the trajectory. There's got to be a better way to do that downspout, right? That's my take on it. But I don't know. I like to take responsibility for myself. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Larry sends an email to Mike at 570news.com. Mike, to reduce the use of road salt, insurance companies and the legal system would need to reduce the liabilities on companies. It all comes down to insurance and lawsuits. Larry, I could not agree more. Let's go back to the phones. Janet, good morning.
Good morning, Mike. Talking about salt and all that stuff, my husband and I use fertilizer on our driveway and on our well, we had a sidewalk. We don't have one anymore. And it clears it just as good as salt. In fact, it's better because you're fertilizing your grass, your gardens, and everything else when it all melts.
I had no idea that fertilizer had the same effect.
Oh, yeah. The only thing is that you get the little pebbles when you come in the house. You have to clean your feet off, of course. But it goes through the salt. It goes through I find it goes through the ice a lot faster than the salt does.
Must be the nitrogen.
Yeah.
Okay. Janet, thanks for that.
Okay.
All right. Appreciate the tip. Hey, listen. And then instead of the salt ruining the edges of your grass, you're going to have the thickest grass on the edge of your property right at the sidewalk because you put fertilizer down instead of salt in the wintertime. There is a solution here. I applaud our municipalities for trying to get some movement on this. Will it lead to limited liability legislation province-wide? I guess that remains to be seen. I'm going to get you to the 570 News Center for an update, and then let's celebrate some sustainability success together on the Mike Farwell Show this morning. This is 570 News Radio. Sustainable Waterloo Region, an organization that has now marked 15 years in our community. Last week, in fact, 1 week ago today, held its annual Evening of Recognition, where we get to hear all kinds of great stories about organizations and people in our community that are doing wonderfully sustainable things. And I always enjoy those stories because I think they have the ability to inspire others, individuals, or in this case, perhaps organizations, to do more of the same. I wasn't able to be there last Thursday, but we've been able to follow up on these success stories through the week here on the show. Tova Davidson is the executive director at Sustainable Waterloo Region and joins us here this morning. Tova, always good to see you. Good morning.
Good morning, Mike. How are you?
I'm excellent. And how are you 1 week after the Evening of Recognition?
Flying high, Mike. It's such a great community, such a great movement. Flying high.
It certainly is. We're also joined this morning by Danielle Veneris, who is the sustainability coordinator with MTE Consultants. Danielle, good morning to you.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Excellent. It's good to have you here this morning. MTE Consultants recognized as the Green Team of the Year. Can you share with us a little bit about what you do at MTE Consultants that makes you green?
Well, we have 5 offices across southwestern Ontario, and we have green teams in each of those offices now. So, the green teams just get together usually on a monthly basis, and we plan various events and initiatives, and just try to get staff engaged, also strategize how we can reduce our carbon emissions, but it's a lot of fun. We enjoy it.
Why is this something that's important to MTE Consultants?
Well, in terms of green teams, I think that employee engagement is a really crucial piece that needs to be considered as we look at the bigger picture in reducing our emissions. And having staff who are engaged is just a sign of how important the issues surrounding sustainability really are, and it'll help to drive those bigger changes. So, yeah. So
how do you go about engaging MTE employees in these initiatives?
So the green teams are really the most important piece in that. They go around the offices often and just chat with our staff and try to get them excited and to come out to these events. And I think that, over the last couple of years, they've really grown. It's been exciting.
So what sorts of events do they have the opportunity to get involved in?
Oh, all kinds of things. Tree plantings, invasive species removal. We have 2 pollinator gardens at our Stratford office. We've done bicycle tune-ups, sustainable potlucks, waste audits, e-waste drives, sustainable film screenings, and other things as well. Okay, that is quite the list, Danielle. And I said at the outset that this might be an opportunity for another company or organization listening to think, okay, well, if MTE Consultants can do all of this, maybe we can do 1 or 2 of the things. But, when difficulty level, on a scale of 1 to 10, is it a lot to undertake to get employees engaged in this? I think that what you'll find is there are actually quite a few people who are passionate about the environment and about these things. And I think the hardest part is just to first get that ball rolling, and then it kind of grows from there.
Tova, when you hear stories like this, and obviously one of the reasons that MTE Consultants would be recognized as a Green Team of the Year, Danielle says it's 5 offices across Ontario that can all get behind things like this. So the goodness can spread from here in Kitchener to all these other offices.
100%. And actually, the list, Danielle gave you a little bit of a taste of the list of what was there. But as I read out the list as we were giving the award last week, you could see people's eyes just got bigger and bigger and bigger as they thought of all the things that had happened. And actually, forming a green team is a foundational piece, we believe, in the work towards sustainability in an organization, because it can't be one person. One person can't do this alone. And if you were to ask most people, are you interested in being connected to the environment, to having this be part of your work? They actually are very interested. So that green team is often made up of a cross section of employees from different work functions who are passionate and who are driven towards this. And they get to do a lot of fun stuff. Like, you think, oh, I'm going to be outside, but actually it's great. So like, you're planting trees and doing all of those good things. And it's also a great leadership creation platform for young leaders in an organization to be able to step up and say, I'm going to actually be a leader in this business or in this organization overall. So it's a really great opportunity.
So how, Tova, does the relationship with Sustainable Waterloo Region work? You talk about these green teams being a foundational element in all of this. So if an organization is thinking about establishing a green team or doing anything else in a sustainable way, how can they work with Sustainable Waterloo Region to make it happen in their workplace?
So that is the foundation of what SWR does. Our first ever program is now called the Impact Network, and that's the one that MTE is as closely related to, though they do participate with us in other ways. And that Impact Network program is designed to help organizations down this path, because it can be daunting. They don't know how to start. They don't know how to do measurement. They don't know how to form a green team, all of that. So we have all of the resources and have worked with, I think it's 180 companies to do this work. So a lot. And we do see a business return on investment for organizations. If they do this, they actually become more efficient in the use of their energy. They retain their employees longer. They reduce their risk exposure. They can respond to RFPs better because they can stand out from the competition, saying that they are actually doing all of this great work in really sustainable ways. And it's a change that can last. And just as an extra shout out to MTE, this is their second year as Green Team of the Year. So they have a good runway. And of course, it means all the other members of the network now get to challenge them.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I was saying to Danielle off the air before we started this morning, I remembered her name from last year on one of these conversations. And Danielle, I'm sure nobody does it because they want to win the award, although it's nice to be recognized. But as an organization that's been involved in this for so many years, how has your green team evolved since you started?
It's really grown, and just kind of having more of that organized ability to have those annual events. So, for example, we typically try to do tree plantings every fall and Earth Day cleanups every Earth Day. So, yeah, it's definitely evolved into a more structured, a more structured team, which has been great.
So now that it's a back-to-back recognition from Sustainable Waterloo Region, are we talking about a green team dynasty here, Danielle? Is it MTE Consultants and everybody else has to chase now?
Oh my gosh.
We'll keep our eyes on this, and there will be no stuffing of the ballot box next year. You'll have to earn it once again. But Tova, this must be the sort of thing that Sustainable Waterloo Region absolutely loves to celebrate.
It is an incredible thing to celebrate, because what it says is not only does MTE Consultants as a company care about this and understand it's part of their work and part of their strategy for moving forward, but also that their staff do. And I think that's something that a lot of employers don't understand, that this is actually something that their staff are really passionate about. So give them the runway to bring it into your business, and your business can be stronger for it.
Pressure's on for next year, Danielle, but I'll just leave that pressure on you, okay?
Challenge accepted.
I like it. I like it a lot. Congratulations on the award, and thanks for joining the show this morning.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me.
Danielle Veneris is the Sustainability Coordinator with MTE Consultants, recognized in back-to-back years now as the Green Team of the Year from Sustainable Waterloo Region. We continue the stories of sustainability success on the Mike Farwell Show this morning. Stay with us, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Last Thursday evening, Sustainable Waterloo Region held its annual evening of recognition, handing out awards to organizations in their community, in our community, to celebrate their sustainability successes. We just heard from MTE Consultants as the Green Team of the Year, and now we're joined by Chris Sager, Superintendent of Facility Services with the Waterloo Region District School Board, our Roots and Shoots winner for the year. Chris, good to have you on the show. Good morning.
Hey, Mike. Thank you for having me.
Tova, let me start with you on this, because I think from the years past when we've talked about these awards, Roots and Shoots, unless I've forgotten, it wasn't there before. What's a Roots and Shoots winner?
Well, yes, and we actually have awarded this once before. And interestingly, SWR gives the awards that are deserved, not the ones we do every year. So, for example, during COVID, we did not do a greatest greenhouse gas reduction because everything was all helter-skelter. And so we didn't do that then. But the Roots and Shoots Award is given to the organization that has deep roots with SWR. We've worked with them in one capacity, and then they have grown and flourished in a new area to do even more. And so they have deep roots and shoots into new areas of sustainability.
Absolutely love it. So, Chris, why is this something that's important to the Waterloo Region District School Board?
Thanks, Mike, for the question. This recognition affirms our role as leaders in sustainability education. As the largest school board in the region, we take seriously our responsibility to model the values we teach: collaboration, compassion, and innovation. The work we've done aligns with our goals to engage students and care for the world that they will inherit.
How do students get involved in these initiatives?
Well, the students play a central part to all of our sustainability work. They help plant microforests and participate in school-wide initiatives like the Earth Day events and the UN Sustainable Development Goals SDG Expo. One of the ways we celebrate their efforts is through the Tim Walker Memorial Awards for Environmental Stewardship. It's all about giving students tools and knowledge to lead the change and to help them be more mindful of their environmental impact as they grow and are more conscious of how they impact the environment.
Tova, this reminds me, I remember when the microforests story first came about, and what a great concept to use existing space on school properties and engage the students in that, because as Chris alludes to, we start them in elementary school getting involved in these things, and then they carry this forward into their lives.
Yeah, the microforest program started in 2021. We had this one incredible group, the Aegis Foundation Fund, the first two forests, and they were at two schools in Cambridge, Avenue Road and Manchester. And we planted about 200 trees that year. Over the course of the 4 years that the microforest program has operated, about 22 sites have been on schools in partnership with the school board. That's almost 2,000 trees in 4 years, brought to communities that wouldn't be able to do greening themselves. And we've had more than 1,800 students come out and help with the planting and see how it works, and then see the forests afterwards and watch them grow and help to steward them. So it's a pretty incredible partnership, and we're really grateful to the school board for being one of the primary sites that we plant. There's been 36 forests so far, 22 of which at the school board.
Chris, to that point, with 22 microforests across the board, you talked about it being the largest board in the region. With such a large organization, how do you determine where the next microforest will go, coordinate these efforts across the school board?
Great question. So working hand in hand with Sustainable Waterloo Region will be the first step to identify the next site. We try to look at schools that are in the lower socioeconomic area that don't have, these much plantation or vegetation. So we really try to prioritize those areas so that we can give back to the school community and that they can benefit from having these microforests. So working with Tova and her group, and along with our sustainability committee, we will try to identify some suitable sites, and then we have to make sure they're they're acceptable for these microforests. So it's a collaboration between the two organizations that really help us identify which site to use.
And Tova, to that end, the work that the school board would do with Sustainable Waterloo Region to identify sites, it all starts with that initial relationship. Any other organization that might be, thinking of a green team, thinking of a microforest, whatever else in terms of sustainability practices, how can they build this relationship, get in touch with Sustainable Waterloo Region?
Some organizations get nervous to work with an environmental agency, but we are strong supporters and advocates for our community and our membership. So they just need to reach out, go to sustainablewr.ca, and we would love to talk to them about where they need help and how we can help them. And Mike, can I take 1 minute and tell a super cute little story about a microforest last year?
Absolutely.
I promise 1 minute. So we were planting for a grade 7-8 class was out at one of the school board microforests, and this sweet grade 7 boy was tucking in his tree right at the end. And he was talking to the tree as kids are apt to do. And he said, "There you go, buddy. I'll leave you here. You'll grow and prosper here. But I can't just leave you. I think I need to name you. I'm going to call you John Trina." And we just about died laughing. We thought this was so funny. And it has created a whole thing in the SWR office. So now we have Charles Barkley and Kate Branchett and a whole Keanu Leaves. We thought that one was particularly good. So it's not only that it's a good thing to do, but it's actually really sweet and really fun.
I have a feeling that both John Cena and Keanu Reeves would be interested to know about the trees named after them, so to speak. And maybe we'll get them here for a photo op at some point. I love it. That's a great story. Tova, keep up the great work. Sustainablewr.ca. Build some of these relationships. And Chris, to you and the entire team at the Waterloo Region District School Board, congratulations on the Roots and Shoots Award last week at the Evening of Recognition.
Thank you, Mike. And thank you, Tova, for the recognition. We're very happy with, everything that we've been doing with Sustainable Waterloo Region and our efforts to be more environmentally friendly. And we continue to make that a passion of ours. So we hope to explore more initiatives and to do more as an organization.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. What a great partner. Have a great day, everyone.
Tova Davidson, Executive Director at Sustainable Waterloo Region, and Chris Sager, Superintendent Facility Services at the Waterloo Region District School Board, with us on the Mike Farwell Show this morning, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Thanks, Elias, for the email to Mike at 570news.com. As you said, Mike, the series is not over. Don't give up on the Maple Leafs. We can talk more about it during our Talkback Hour. Listen, I just was following along with you last night, and I know the Leafs got thumped. They got walloped. They got their butts handed to them. But the narrative from, I understand the frustration. Series is not over. Maybe we can talk more about that during our Talkback Hour, noon to 1. Right now, it's off to the 570 News Center for an update, and then our weekly chat with Gary Chalk, the humor columnist who writes Living Retired. If you're living retired, you've got all the time in the world to assemble that fire table, right? What could possibly go wrong? We'll find out next on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
Hookah chaka, hookah, hookah, hookah chaka, hookah, hookah, hookah chaka, hookah, hookah, hookah chaka, hookah, hookah. I can't stop this feeling deep inside of me. Girl, you just don't realize what you do to me. When you hold me in your arms so tight, you let me know everything's alright. Hooked on a feeling.
Every Thursday morning at 10:30, it's the feeling of humor, a little bit of laughter. And do we not just need it more today than most other days? I'm not alone in that, right? So many people still feeling the sting from last night's Leafs loss. So don't worry about anything for the next 30 minutes because Gary Chalk is here, the humor columnist who writes Living Retired and brings it to life on our show every Thursday morning at 10:30. Good morning, Gary.
Hey, good morning, Mike with a mic. How are you today?
Well,
decent day.
It's a nice-looking day out there. I had some junk food and some wobbly pops last night. I don't care about what else happened while I was having those wobbly pops. Stupid hockey game. I'm great.
Well, let's put it this way. It's a good thing it's radio because I have this big grocery bag over my face with just two little eyelets cut out. So,
That goes back to the Roger Nielsen days. I love it.
You betcha. Boy, last weekend was Mother's Day weekend. This weekend is a holiday weekend. And ask me what I did last weekend for Mother's Day, Mike.
All right, hang on a second. Hey, Gary, what did you do last weekend for Mother's Day?
Great question, Mike. Jan and I decided to spend some time together assembling one of those outdoor gas fire tables.
Why? Why, Gary? Why?
Oh, I don't know why we get into these things. Jan decided she was looking online, and so she found one, and she said, here's a really nice one. She said, there's two problems, though. It's unassembled, and it has a 30-page instruction manual that's marked danger, fire, and explosion hazard. So we thought, okay, sounds good. We bought it. So the thing arrived, as I say, it was last Mother's Day weekend. But Friday morning, we finished our coffee and sat out on our patio. And the first hour, till about, I'm thinking maybe 10:30, Jan was holding the manual in her hand, and she was all the time on page 6, which was identify the parts. And part G, I'm telling you, the guy in China must have doubled over laughing when he identified it. It was a little itty-bitty piece of, well, I'd at best call it aluminum foil grade piece of metal. He said it was a wrench.
I know exactly the kind of wrench you're talking about, Gary.
Yeah, and then he also mislabeled another part. What was it? Part B, the ignition control knob. Mike, those are like Christmas lights that are supposed to blink that don't. The ignition control, you know those things never work. So, we thought, well, no, we'll proceed. So eventually, after about an hour identifying the parts on page 6, we got to page 8. And now you got to get your head screwed in. Step 1, I checked to ensure the gas supply was turned off. And, of course, Jan double-checked, and she said, you never be too safe when you're going to play with fire. So then we got to page 8, step 2. This is when things really started to take a turn. It said, attach legs to the metal stand. Should be easy peasy, right? Well, it took us an hour. Imagine, the designers of this thing had the audacity to design this fire table and have 4 legs that you have to put on the thing. 4! And
Well,
I'm thinking,
you can't have a 3-legged fire table, Gary.
Well, I'm even thinking a 1-legged thing is enough for me. What's wrong with 1? I mean, if we can get a man to the moon, why can't we come up with a table with 1 leg?
Okay.
That's what I thought. So we got them attached, and that's when Jan looked, and she said, Gary, this can't be right. Our fire table is pointing towards our guest bedroom. It looks more like the Leaning Tower of Pisa. Right? So we said time out because it's getting... The advantage of the Part G wrench, it's only 2 inches and sort of like aluminum foil. If you throw it, it doesn't cause any damage. So, that was the advantage of that wrench.
That's my kind of wrench. Because let me tell you, Gary, I've been known to throw the occasional golf club and wrench.
Oh, glad I'm not alone. So what we decided to do for our timeout, I said, I'll take the legs back off, and she went inside. It's getting closer to lunch. She said, I'll put some eggs on to boil for egg salad sandwiches for lunch. Well, before you could say some assembly required, Jan's back out, and that's when I tore open the little plastic bag of bolts and screws and washers and hexagon-shaped nuts and wing nuts, and they scattered all across the patio. Some of them dropped off over to the grass. Somehow at that point, wing nuts seemed quite appropriate.
It does from where I'm sitting.
And the 30 pages manual, it included... I'm not making this up, Mike. 16-step lighting your gas fire table. 16 steps.
To light it?
Yeah.
Okay.
And by the time we had finished reading all the intricacies of turning the gas on, striking a match, I'm having second thoughts. I'm thinking, why can't we just have a 4-legged, wobbledy table that we can put some potted plants on and skip lighting the fire? So, anyways, we finished understanding the 16 steps to lighting your gas fire table. We moved on to the next thing. I'm not making this stuff up, Mike. It was the 60 important safety instruction. 60.
60. I know you never make stuff up on this show, Gary. I know you don't.
I'm a straight shooter. The one, it said it must, I'm reading this, must conform with propane and storage code CSA B149.2. I don't know.
Wait, do you have the manual?
Well, no. Then I started thinking maybe we should go and look at it online.
There you go.
So then, and I'll be quick, at this point, remember I said about 30 minutes ago, Jan went in to turn on the stove to boil some eggs?
Yeah, you're going to have some egg salad sandwiches.
Well, what happened, now our smoke alarm in the kitchen's screaming because the water went dry in the pot. And she goes running in, and wouldn't you know it, she tripped over part 10 lava rocks. And they bounced everywhere. So we're not getting anywhere fast. So then what I tried to do was to get the ignition control knob that does not work. And of course, it does not work. So we spent all this time together, Jan and I. It's Mother's Day weekend assembling our new propane gas fire table. You know how I light it today?
How do you light it today?
I just turn the gas on, light a match, throw it in, and run.
That makes the most sense to me.
Yeah, and when I hear boom, I know we're good to go.
Oh, Gary Chalk is the humor columnist who writes Living Retired. You can find it online, livingretired.press. And while you're there, make sure you sign up for the weekly newsletter. Have it delivered right to your inbox. It's a much better delivery than the memos from the boss. I promise you that. Livingretired.press. What happens after we go boom? Surely there are other things to tend to. It is spring after all. We'll continue our conversation on Living Retired here on the Mike Farwell Show. 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Every Thursday morning at 10:30, we're joined by Gary Chalk. He's a humor columnist who writes Living Retired. You can find it online at livingretired.press. And while you're there, make sure you sign up for the weekly newsletter, the column delivered directly to your inbox at livingretired.press. And if you're like me and you're, looking on the horizon at that time to be living retired, you know what you're going to be living like. Gary, your story about lighting the fire table, and when you hear the boom, you light it and run away. It reminds me of the time I accidentally left my buddy's barbecue lid down before I lit. Oh yeah, we had a boom that day too.
Yeah, how's your chin?
I was far enough away, like you, the fire table. I ran, buddy. I ran.
Well, all the spring chores that are going on right now, it's interesting. I mean, I don't enjoy spring. Everything about spring in my mind is summed up in one word: squat. You got the spring melt, and it means your sump pump doesn't work. It means your dirty brown snow gives away to dirty brown grass. And then the chores. Do you and your spouse, do you sort of divvy up the chores at spring?
We have a conversation about divvying up the chores, and then my beloved does all of them.
Well, here's our conversation. Jan said, Gary, it's time to dig the gardens, aerate the lawn, apply spring fertilizer, clean the windows, set up the patio furniture, clean the barbecue, check that the outdoor lights work, drain the snowblower, and, of course, change the direction of the ceiling fans for summer. And my eyes are just glazing over. Then she said, Gary, we'll need to get these spring chores done before the Stanley Cup playoffs begin. Well, they don't end until what, middle of June at the best?
That's right. But for some Leafs fans, they end earlier so we can get our spring chores done, Gary.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm just saying, by the time the playoffs end in mid-June, spring's over, and now we're into summer. And Jan's going to say, well, Gary, now it's time to apply the summer fertilizer, the summer weed control, spray for chinch bugs out on the front lawn, top up any dead spots in the lawn, trim the shrubs, fix the sliding door, the screen door there that someone smashes through at one of our parties, replace the herb garden after the rabbits ate them all, plant the new hostas after the deer ate them, and wash the retractable awning over the pad. That's what needs to be done in summer. I haven't got spring done yet. and this is now late June, right? And then, of course, in late June, I like to watch Wimbledon on television.
Oh, yes, so do I.
You betcha. And sometime in July and August, we always enjoy getting up to Pikes Bay. We have a friend who has a cottage up there. And then then it's September. It's Buffalo Bills football. We can't miss that. And so then finally, Jan, she realizes I'm just not really wanting to get into this stuff. She suggested that maybe what we should do is hire someone to do our spring chores and all the outdoor summer things. So, as she said, we can go on a garden club tour. A garden club tour?
To see all the other gardens that are nicer than yours?
That's right. It's just going to go full circle, and I can't win. I mean, peonies make me sneeze. I'd rather go on a road trip and visit various Major League Baseball stadiums. That'd be fun. That's right. But then Jan said, well, after 2 innings, she's tired of watching grown men spit and scratch themselves. So that came off.
She knows baseball. Jan knows baseball. You bet.
Does. Then she said, well, in September, we can go up to Stratford and take in the Shakespearean Theatre. I love Stratford. And I said, this year, why don't I drop you off at a theater, and there's a little craft brewery just off the main drag, and then we'll meet up for dinner. And then she talked about a new artisan kitchen that makes wonderful cheeses and fruit preserves. I was thinking something more along the lines of guacamole and chicken wings. So it just was going nowhere. And then before you know it, she's going to say it'll be fall. She'll say, Gary, we need to have to get the gutters cleaned, spread the fall fertilizer, top dress the lawn, put up the snow fence to protect the trees from the deer, close off all the outdoor taps, clean and store the outdoor furniture, get the garage ready so we can bring the cars in during the winter, fill the snowblower with gas, and find where all the outdoor Christmas lights that don't blink, get them out. My mind is whirling in circles. You know what the main thing is, Mike? We're happily married.
Still. Gary, you remind me, home ownership is the gift that keeps on giving.
Oh, does it ever? What is it they say? Your home is a man's castle until you try to do the upkeep. It's not happening. But there's I saw a couple other signs this spring, Mike.
Okay.
There was one, it was a yard sale, and it says, "Our crap is your crap."
Very good.
And the other sign, now this is real. It said, "Please post no signs." So they posted a sign to say, post no signs.
No, I can't handle that. Would blow my brains, Gary. I can't handle that. Can't handle it. Oh, I love it. Hey, listen, you got some chores to do. Stop yapping with me and get back to work, would you?
Oh, okay. Somehow I'm going to have to do it. But anyways, I like to say go Leafs, but I don't know.
That's the fall chores, Gary. Don't worry about that.
Oh, okay, sounds good.
Talk to you next week.
Enjoy it, Mike.
Thanks, Gary. Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Gary Chalk is the humor columnist who writes Living Retired. I will not tell a lie. I'll always shoot straight with you. When I got the lawnmower out for the second time in 4 days, because our back lawn just grows like the dickens, I thought to myself, there is that one part of winter, not this past winter, but most winters that I don't mind very much. And that is, you only have to go out there and shovel when it snows. That lawn just keeps on growing and growing and growing all summer long. And it's certainly into its growing season. Gary Chalk joins us with Living Retired every Thursday morning at 10:30. Make sure you sign up to get the column delivered to your inbox at livingretired.press. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. I really enjoy our Thursday mornings with Gary Chalk. Living Retired every Thursday at 10:30. Every Thursday at 11:30, so about 30 minutes from now, the Flipside. We have a little bit of fun with that, interacting on the phones, and I came across this new movement yesterday. Not a physical movement. I could not do that. But this is the kind of movement I could really get behind. I haven't even told my beloved yet, but because she would never get behind a movement like this, like not a chance. But I'm ready for it, and I wonder if you would be too, or if it would go over well in your household, because maybe one of you could get behind the movement, but not the other. That'll come up on the Flip Side in just over 30 minutes after the 11:30 news this morning. I want to remind you about our Farwell for Hire 50/50 raffle. We've got a couple, not one, but two early bird prizes to award tomorrow. At 11 o'clock tomorrow morning, we're going to award somebody the Kitchener Rangers VIP experience, a tour of what will be a brand new, because they're renovating it, dressing room, a one-on-one with a Ranger player, a signed Rangers jersey, and the chance to sit with Paul Fixter and I in the broadcast booth for a game. We'll probably even throw you on the air for that, too. We'll have a little chat during a hockey game. That VIP experience could be yours if you have your tickets before 11 o'clock tomorrow morning. And then at noon tomorrow, we're going to award $1,500 cash from the Better Business Bureau. Just like that. We'll put $1,500 into your pocket heading into the long weekend. I mean, come on. How much would you enjoy that? And if you win the early bird prize, you're still in for the overall jackpot, which has now gone beyond $67,000. Take home prize more than $33,500. I would love to see that jackpot reach 70K by tomorrow morning when we award those early bird prizes, the first of them. The Kitchener Rangers VIP experience at 11, $1,500 from the Better Business Bureau at noon tomorrow, and you're still in for the overall jackpot. Remember, you win more than $33,500, cystic fibrosis gets more than $33,500. Let's get that jackpot moving. Get your tickets right now. They start as little as $10 at cf5050.ca. cf5050.ca. After this update from the 570 News Center, we all know what happens if you win an election. What happens when you don't? We'll talk about it coming up on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. I will never forget a conversation I once had with somebody when I was considering making a run for public office. Yes, I've been very clear about it more recently that I have no intention of doing that. But there have been times in my past where I entertained conversations, but I'll never forget. And this was a woman who's got deep political experience. And I really valued the time that she took to sit down. We have this conversation. And she said there are two important questions you have to answer for yourself if you're thinking of running for office. Number one is, what happens if you lose? And of course, that had definitely crossed my mind. I mean, you put a lot of effort into it. And if you're not successful, how does that feel? And then what comes next? And then the other question she said you must answer before you engage in the idea is, what happens if you win? And I hadn't really thought about it from that side. I mean, then what? What does it mean to be an elected representative? Well, we had somebody in Kitchener Centre who I think put his heart and soul into not just running, but then working as an MP. And then in the most recent election, just over 2 weeks ago now, was unsuccessful in his re-election bid. So to one of those questions I was asked all those years ago, what happens if you lose? Mike Morris, the former MP for Kitchener Centre, joins the show this morning. Mike, it's good to talk to you. Good morning.
Good morning, Mike. Thanks for having me back on again.
Always happy to have conversations with somebody who is as engaged in the community and has as much passion for it as you do. So 2 weeks gone now by since the election. What have the last couple of weeks been like for you?
Well, a lot of focus on making sure I thank all the people, whether it was folks who were part of the team these last 3.5 years, or volunteers who were part of the community office, and then, of course, folks who've been part of the campaign, wanting to make sure we end this parliamentary session in a good way. And that means making sure we share that gratitude with folks. It means I can say thanks to listeners who've tuned into our conversations these last number of years, Mike, and have joined in on a number of campaigns that we've been successful with in our community these past few years. But it also means, closing offices. It means making sure there's support for staff who are now looking for work. It's transitioning files to the MP-elect to set her up to be successful in her role. And so that's been my main focus these last few weeks. Of course, there's been lots of emotions, too, as folks have, it's been really nice, whether I'm walking in the market or seeing posts online, to be, feeling that affirmation from so many who, said, thank you for whether it's the work done or how we did it. That's been really meaningful also.
We had Sustainable Waterloo Region on the show earlier today, Mike, and that reminds me of when you and I first crossed paths, when you launched Sustainable Waterloo Region here in our community. And I bring that up because it just shows that you've always been so involved. And you ran for the first time in 2019. There's obviously a lead up to that election. Not successful then, back at it in 2021 when you were successful. But after all of this time with involvement in the community, what inspired you to run for office in the first place?
Yeah, I love that question. It was a realization that to address the root causes of the issues that I felt we were up against, the place where I felt I could have the biggest impact was federally. After 10 years of both Sustainable Waterloo Region and then Green Economy Canada afterwards, looking at the climate crisis and recognizing that, if we're going to have a federal government that continues to send tens of billions of dollars of our money to build fossil fuel infrastructure that will never pay itself back, it's much more difficult to then support a business who wants to do the right thing if the incentive money isn't there for them because it's locked into these kind of stranded assets. But same for housing. Speaking with so many folks in our community, we're saying, I can't afford to stay here. Folks living with disabilities and poverty. So many of the issues that are defining our community, the solutions lie in government and federal and provincial. And so for me, it was just more of the same in terms of wanting to be a voice for folks in our community and recognizing that the greatest influence I could have would be to bring those voices to Parliament where decisions are being made that address the root causes of these crises that we're facing.
Hindsight, of course, is famously 2020, Mike. But when you look back on the campaign that was, when you were unsuccessful in the end, what would you have done differently, if anything?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a question that, after 2 weeks of some reflection, I can maybe answer more fully than if we'd spoken the day after. I think, first of all, I do feel really grateful to have had the experience to serve as our community's MP. But in terms of the campaign directly, I think one thing that I would do differently if I were to do it again would be making more clear with more people how much people power is required to be reelected and elected as a Green. I've said many times on your show, Mike, I find the job was easier to do as a Green MP because my hands were never tied. I never was forced to vote for something I didn't agree with or say something that somebody handed me a slogan to repeat. I got to focus my time on the issues that I heard from our community and amplifying voices from our community. And what's also true is it's likely, getting elected as a Green, it means the focus really is on the people power, on the volunteers. And I think I could have been probably more direct with more folks about how, if you want to see this work continue, we need to, have that many more people out knocking on doors and making phone calls and letting folks know that in Kitchener Centre, there's a kind of it's a bit different than the landscape in many other ridings across the country where electing a Green is less likely.
I'm up against the clock, Mike. Do you have time to hang on a little longer?
Yes, absolutely. For sure.
Perfect. Thanks, Mike. Mike Morris is with us, former MP for Kitchener Centre. The point on the Green Party is interesting to me because we know that Mike was one of two elected Greens in Canada, and now there's only one in Leader Elizabeth May. So what of the Green Party itself, and maybe we say the Green movement, and what's next for a guy that's been so involved for so long in this community and represented Kitchener Centre as he did for the past 4 years? We'll continue the conversation with former MP Mike Morris on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. We're in conversation this morning with Mike Morris, now former MP from Kitchener Centre. Mike, you were talking earlier about being a member of that Green Party and not really having to toe a party line, so to speak, and you think that made you more effective, perhaps, as an MP. Given the state of the party, now just one member in the House of Commons federally, is the party okay? Is it got a future, really, politically here in Canada?
Yeah, I think the future for the Green Party is looking at where Greens have had success across the country. And yes, that means Elizabeth May out in BC, but it's Aisling Clancy right here in Kitchener Centre and the important work she continues to do as our MPP. It's Mike Schreiner in Guelph. It's Peter Bevan-Baker out in PEI. I think what unites elected Greens, and similar for my part in my time as an elected MP here in Kitchener Centre, is the focus on putting community ahead of partisan politics, which I do think is a big part of where I was able to, work with others. You don't have to pretend you're the only reason why things get done. It's working with others to secure funding for shelters and housing in our community, working with others to deliver the Canada Disability Benefit and improve on it, and then put spotlight on issues like the lack of funding for the arts in our community, the gouging of the oil and gas industry. All of this work, to me, is possible. I couldn't have done it with any other party because the Greens encouraged me to stay focused on the issues and to put people ahead of the politics. And, from knocking on doors in our community, there remains a great deal of interest in that approach, in having community champions serving us rather than political parties showing up with their slogans at folks' front door. And so my sense is where the Greens need to continue to go is to learn from the progress that elected Greens like Aisling and others are making, and continue to focus on putting democracy ahead of everything that I think so many folks are tired of when it comes to partisan politics.
What are you planning to do next? Will we see your name on a ballot sometime again down the road?
Well, you'll be among the first to know, Mike, when I've got a decision on whether I run again. That would be a decision my family and I haven't made yet, because the focus really has been on closure of offices and transition and all that. But what I can tell you is I'm not going anywhere. I will be staying in our community. I will be staying actively engaged in our community. The issues that matter to our community haven't gone away since the election, whether that's rates of poverty or the housing crisis or the underfunding of the arts. And I still care deeply about those issues and the folks who are in the crosshairs at a time when, the tariff threats and all the rest are still there. And so for me, it's just a reflection now on where best to put my efforts, not the, first person to be in an unemployed position in this community. And so it's something that a lot of folks in our community have had to move through. And for me, I've got a lot of, privilege, I guess, that I'm grateful for, and want to put that to service in a way that is constructive on the issues that are affecting folks. So reach out anytime, Mike. Happy to be back on your show, for example. Looking forward to these few months. It's a pretty special time to get a chance to reflect and put my efforts back towards serving in whatever way I think I can have the greatest impact and just help the most.
I will certainly keep that number handy. You can count on it. And before I let you go, because you mentioned, the conversation that would have to happen with families should you decide to run again down the road, you're reminding me of something we talked about with David Drew earlier this week, who joins us on a weekly basis on the show. And David talked about, he's obviously a former party staffer and knows how hard the job is and how many hours go unnoticed, perhaps, by the public. You think about when you break for the summer, well, it's not like you're on vacation putting your feet up. That's when the barbecue circuit starts, et cetera, et cetera. How difficult is the balance, Mike, is the short question here to get to?
Yeah, I think if you're doing it well, for me, again, in the summer times, I wasn't taking a break. I was knocking on doors so that I can hear from folks and their stories to inform me to be a better MP. It is a full-on commitment, but it's one that is like, what a deep honor to be given the privilege to be the voice for folks of your community in any legislature, whether that's at a municipal, provincial, or federal level. And so I think it's a commitment that is, one to be taken very seriously. I think we deserve in our community to have people who are legislators who are fighting for us and not just filling a spot. But if you're going to do it well, if you're going to do all three parts of the job, listening to folks, fighting for them in a legislature, and then being accountable and transparent and available and accessible, it's a pretty full-on commitment of that person and their family. And that means we should be thanking anyone who puts themselves forward for public service, and particularly those who are doing it in a way that, maintains that connection to their community and is so obviously fighting for their community. We've got a long history of those kinds of people in Waterloo Region. And for my part, that's what I aspired to kind of meet that similar bar.
Mike, I appreciate you making time for the show again this morning. And as I said, I will keep the number handy. I look forward to our next conversation, whatever it happens to be about.
Appreciate that, Mike. Really good to chat with you again, too.
Enjoy your day. Yeah, bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Mike Morris, now former MP for Kitchener Centre. I just go back to those questions that were put to me a long time ago, I might add, when I was considering running for office. And the questions were, what happens if you win? Or what happens if you lose? Which I had thought about. What happens if you win? Which I hadn't thought about. And that was a pretty intimidating question, because then you think, oh my gosh, then I'm responsible for things. Yeah, that. And then in this case, for Mike Morris, what happens if you lose? He's taking some more time to figure that out, but he will be involved, as you might expect, in the community moving forward. The now former MP for Kitchener Centre, Mike Morris, joining us on the Mike Farwell Show this morning, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Well, as you have heard throughout our newscasts this morning, the Fight for Farmland group says their fight is not over, even though the region of Waterloo has announced that it has successfully secured about 70% of the 770 acres it's hoping to put together in Wilmot Township for an industrial megasite. And at these 550 or so acres right now, the land that's already been acquired in a contiguous plot, it would qualify as a mega site. So now the work goes about for the due diligence to make sure it's shovel ready. And then off we go for the opportunity, the region, of course, says, to create the jobs on that site in the future as we grow to 1 million people. I'm reminded, look, I admire the continued fight. As I understand it, there's only one landowner still holding out in all of this. Everybody else found their price along the way. And I'm reminded of something that was said through this process, because the opposition has been very well organized and very vocal. And what was said throughout the process is, just because you disagree and you're well organized, doesn't mean you're going to get your way. The region can listen to those criticisms and concerns, but it doesn't mean ultimately their mind will be changed. And that certainly appears to be the case. I'm sure that will come up more during our Talkback Hour, noon to 1 today. Coming up after this update, though, from the 570 News Centre, it's our weekly opportunity for something a little bit on the lighter side. We call it the Flipside. And I'm really interested in your take on this, because I read about this in my morning paper yesterday, and it hit me right away. Like, I am this person. I didn't know there was an actual movement that has now begun that is exactly in keeping with the way I think it should be. Like, if I ran the world, okay, this would be the rule. I haven't even told my beloved about this yet. So if she's listening, it's going to be very interesting how she feels. Because I know we feel differently about this, but I would like her to come around to my way of thinking on this. So I will share with you what this movement is. I'll tell you why I'm fully behind it. And then I'll ask you, A, will you join me in the movement? And B, how do you think it's going to go over when I go home tonight and tell my beloved this idea? The Flip Side coming up on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Will you join me in the movement for the honest mess? And how do you think this is going to go over in your household if you want to join me in the movement. Maybe you want to tell me this movement has no business going anywhere but the trash bin. So I'm innocently reading my papers yesterday morning, and I come across this story from the perspective of a woman named Catherine Goldstein. She's in Durham, North Carolina. So I don't know Catherine at all, and obviously she's far away. But she speaks my language here, because when guests are coming over to Ms. Goldstein's house, there is no, and I'll read directly from the story, there is no frantic vacuuming, no hiding of clutter, no race to make the home, quote, presentable before the doorbell rings. Instead, the author and mother of three leaves the reality of her life in plain sight. On a recent spring day, shoes, jackets, and lunch bags are piled high near the front door. The kitchen island brims with bowls, cutting boards, and water bottles, pens, mail, a basket of random stuff, a hummingbird feeder. And this, to me, is the best part. No one seems to mind. Apparently, what Ms. Goldstein is involved in has become a bit of a movement. Instead of these influencers we see, or whatever it was that was passed down through the generations, about making sure your home is, quote unquote, presentable before guests show up, you kind of just welcome them in to your home, because that's what it is, right? A home, a place where you live. You're not living in something that is meant to be presented for a real estate showing. You're living in your home. Why? And I've asked this repeatedly, and I get the same response from my beloved, because she's the best. She takes care of all of the things. She keeps a very good house, but she's always a little bit panicked before people are coming over, because things have to look like this or they have to look like that. And I keep saying, why? We live here. Everybody has got the bowl of stuff on the counter somewhere, right? Random knickknacks, keys, whatever, papers near something. We all have the stuff. Now, I will admit, I one time famously took a bunch of dishes I hadn't done and some other sorted and sundry items from around the kitchen and stuffed it inside the oven before company came over. That was a long, long time ago in my bachelor days. But that was the easiest way, because I wasn't getting all those dishes done before somebody came over. But into the oven they went. Besides that, honestly, I don't understand this obsession with tidying up and making a home, quote unquote, presentable before people come over and visit. I think they should just, what if you don't like the way my home looks, and it makes you uncomfortable or makes you not want to visit, then I probably don't want you to visit again anyway. Why should I am giving you a false impression of what my life looks like. So I am fully on board with this movement. I am ready to accept it. I'm ready to join it. I might run for president of the Honest Mess Club. Are you with me? 519-570-2545. Star 570 and 1-800-570-5715. Can you get behind this idea of just the as-is showing or presenting of your home? Guests come over, they get what they get, and they don't get upset. Because why are they there anyway? They are there to see you. And proponents of this movement say this is a better way of building connection, because you're not wasting time and energy making the home, quote unquote, presentable. You're just investing all of your time and all of your energy into that time spent with the people who are coming over. Again, I don't want to give you a false impression. Maybe it makes you feel bad about your own house because you come over and the Farwell house looks so good because my beloved takes such good care of it. Well, it's not. Sometimes we got stuff on the counter. Oh, I'm notorious for letting my mail pile up. Let me tell you. Come on. I'm ready to adopt this movement. Like I said, I'll run for president of the movement. Will you join me in the movement, or must you tidy up and otherwise make your home presentable before people come over? And since I haven't mentioned this to my beloved yet, how do you think she's going to respond when I go home tonight? George, good morning. She's going to love it. You know she is.
I'm a lot like her, and my wife is a lot like you. She couldn't care less. She wants people over. She wants to see them, and she wants to go visit them. I feel, on the other hand, bad. I feel bad. My place is a mess. I want to clean it up a little bit, make it look good. So I think that's how I feel, and that's probably how Jen is feeling too.
Okay, George, but why? Like, why do you feel the need to clean up before people come over? Do you live in a pigsty?
Yeah, no.
Okay.
I don't want it to be like a museum, immaculate, this and that. I want it to look decent. I'm not expecting to look, unless it was my parents, then it had to look really nice. Otherwise, I just want to clean up any little messes here and there and that kind of stuff. But I'm not expecting, if I went to your place, Mike, I wouldn't be expecting like a museum type condition, no.
All right, George, appreciate the call. Good to hear from you today. See, this is the thing, right? I want people to come over and actually say, oh my God, how does Farwell live like this? Oh, wait a minute. I live like this too. I live a life that's full of stuff. And I am also the guy, let's not forget, I don't exactly love clutter. I think we have too much stuff generally. So I've already started the process of purging some of the things. I don't bring much with me through this life other than the stuff that I wear every day. And in the month of May, all I have to do is wear the same T-shirt every day. I mean, the same style T-shirt. It's a different T-shirt, I promise. But for me, it's a pretty easy one. If there's a bowl of knickknacks, if there's some paper strewn, if there's some mail piled up, so what? We live in a very well-kept home. It just looks lived in, and I think that's okay. I want you to come over and say, wow, this looks just like my place. It looks lived in. Greg, what do you say? You want to join me in the movement?
Sure. Because,
okay.
I'm as simple as they get in life in general, old school and all that. And you've seen my place once, and that was maybe neat at the time, because right now, if you were to walk in, it would be like, possibly scary, but apparently not to you with your attitude. But the thing is, anybody that does come over, they're coming over for drinks or food. And I got that for them, and I don't see them concerned with anything else as long as I feed them and quench their thirst for them. They're happy.
Okay, so what are we eating and what are we drinking when we come to visit you, Greg?
How does prime rib steak and beer sound?
Wow, that sounds pretty good.
I'll pencil you in, but you got to free up a calendar and get out there. You know where to find me.
All right, Greg, thanks for the call today. See, people are there to see him. Hey, you want to come over for prime rib steak and a beer? Yes, I do, Greg. Then come over. And what you see is what you get. Grant, good morning.
Yeah, I used to feel conscientious, but like you said, I really don't care if they don't like this place. We used to have a townhouse condo, and I invited this friend over, and my brother said he was really mad that I invited him over. I vacuumed, and as long as everything is put in its place, then my brother went off and said, "Oh yeah, you just did the."
Okay, hang on. Let me get this straight, Grant. Your brother wouldn't come over unless your house was cleaned up?
No, my brother didn't let me bring this friend over after I cleaned up, and he decided to tell me that you just did the visual part of the house. Oh, so
your brother didn't think you cleaned enough?
Right. And
okay,
and,
well,
and
don't invite your brother over anymore then.
No, we owned this place.
Oh,
together.
So you and your brother lived together. You invited somebody over, and your brother said you didn't clean up enough beforehand.
Yeah.
Well, then tell your brother to clean up. Problem solved.
Yeah, that was a different story. And then this friend that I did invite over, I didn't feel that bad because
you shouldn't.
His place was loaded from top to bottom.
He was a hoarder. I get it. Listen, I'm solving problems and taking names here today. If your brother, with whom you share an apartment or a home, doesn't think you cleaned up well enough before the company came over, you tell your brother to clean up next time. That's whatever. It's up to him. It's your friend that's coming over. It's not a reflection on your brother. And if your brother thinks it's a reflection on him, then your brother can clean up. I'm telling you, though, I am behind this idea. It's called the honest mess. And I'm ready for it. I've always wondered. I think look, I'm a little bit on the anal side. I like to have things neat and uncluttered and whatever. But this notion, we live our lives. You come home, sometimes your jacket just stays where you hang it on the back of a chair. Or there are a few dishes that didn't make it to the dishwasher and they might be sitting beside the sink. Or, along with my mail piling up, sometimes my newspapers sit around for a little bit. Whatever. Like, did I not get those cans down to the recycling yet? They're sitting on the counter over there by the microwave. Okay. That's what happens when you live in a home. Why do we do this scramble before people come over just to show them what? That we live a neater life than they do? Because I guarantee you, the house that they left to come over to yours looks exactly the same. So I am fully on board with the no clean before guests movement. Who's with me? Could you do it? 519-570-2545. Star 570 and 1-800-570-5715. Let's all stop cleaning up before company comes. Who's with me? This is the Flip Side on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. So I'm reading my papers yesterday, and I come across this story about a woman in North Carolina who apparently is part of a growing movement. And once I heard of this movement, I thought, hell yes, I will run for the president of this movement's fan club or the movement itself, because I've long wondered about this obsession with tidying up the house before company comes over. Why do we do this? Why do we feel like we need to do this? What I think we're doing, besides, we want to keep a clean house, but it should be clean anyway, clean enough to live in. So why waste more time just because somebody's coming over? Because you want to give them a false impression of how you live? As I said before the break, I guarantee you that the house that they are coming from looks exactly the same as the house they're coming into before you cleaned it up. Apparently there's this movement that's begun, and I am here for it. I don't understand why we try to make a home, quote unquote, presentable. If we live in it, and that's the way we live, I have a feeling it's presentable enough as it is. Corey sends an email to Mike at 570news.com. I'm with you on this. The as is showing. You got to run for that presidency, Mike. Thanks, Corey. I appreciate that. Marino just says, yes, 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 and yes, I'm with you. And this email from Steve to Mike at 570news.com. Oh, boy, Steve. Mike, I hope all is well. I'm just sitting here listening to you talking about cleaning before people come over. I have a one-up. My ex would clean the house before the cleaning people came. It drove me nuts. I love the show. Thank you for that, Steve, and thank you for the email to Mike at 570news.com. Sorry, what? You clean before the cleaning? Let me get this straight. You pay people to come and clean your home, and you clean it up before they get there? Because why? You want them to do less work. That's very interesting. I get it too. We brush our teeth before we go to the dentist, blah, blah, blah. I know, but man, I'm fully on board with this idea. Why do we need to clean before somebody comes over? Join me in the movement. Mark, will you join me in the movement?
Sorry, Mike, I'm totally the opposite. I like a nice, sparkling, clean house when I have company come over, because it shows my place off and it kind of tells them what a nice, how I live.
Okay, what if I came over right now uninvited? What if I just showed up at your door? What would the place look like?
I always have a clean house, Mike.
Okay, well, there you go. You always have one. So you're just keeping it the way you always keep it.
That's correct.
Okay, good man.
And especially if I have company over, I'll go the extra.
You'll go deep clean.
Absolutely, Mike.
All right, Mark. I can't wait to come over, buddy. It's going to be great.
Okay, Mike.
Okay, Mark. Thanks for that. Appreciate it. It's always sparkling clean, and it's even cleaner when people come over. Mike, good morning.
Hi, I'm not voting with you on this. I think it's an invitation for laziness and disrespect for other people to grow even more. I grew up in a house where my parents were hoarders, and they had this safe, cleaned-up living room, and they had curtains to everywhere else, so nobody could see the horrible mess. So I think there's the self-dignity in cleaning up. It's good for your house. You can wreck things if you don't keep clean. I just think I like the idea. The general concept's fun, but in reality, the excuse for slothfulness and dirtiness, I don't want to go where someone's house when it's all dirty.
No, but hang on. Like, again, you're living in the house, right?
Yeah,
like, so I'm assuming you maintain some level of cleanliness. Like, you don't only clean when people come over.
Correct. So I get that.
Okay.
I'm hearing the extreme, the little loophole of excuses, and that's feed that.
All right. Fair enough, Mike. I appreciate the call. No loopholes, Mike says. I'm not going to allow the loophole. So, to Mike's point, if somebody's coming over, at least you finally cleaned something. Brian, good morning.
Good morning. Something that hasn't been mentioned is if you're downsizing, like I went from a 2-story, 3-bedroom house with full dining room and downstairs and so forth to a small 2-bedroom apartment, there's so much stuff, there's no room for it. And my oven is not big enough to put all the extra stuff in.
Don't you get rid of it then when you're downsizing, Brian?
Well, we got rid of a lot, yeah. Truckloads in that. But still, like the 2 businesses and all the other stuff, and I have a lot of books.
So how do you deal with it then when people come over? If you have too much stuff anyway, how do you hide it from people?
Well, I don't hide it. I just try to make it as tidy as possible.
Okay.
But there's only so much room, so I can't help that.
I appreciate it, Brian. I get it. There's only so much room. Let me tell you. This is why I actually would love to have a garage. We don't have one at our house, but I talk about my dream someday. But we all know what happens with garages, right? Very few of us actually put vehicles in there. It just fills up with stuff. It's like a basement, right? So I'm like, maybe I don't need a garage because our basement's plentiful. But when we downsize, let me tell you, see you later stuff. Phil, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Mike.
Hey, Phil.
Yeah, I don't need to go to the gym. There's enough work in my house inside and out all year round. And I work by this premise. We never have time to do things right, but we can always have time to do things over. And there's a place for everything and everything in its place.
I like that last one. I try to live my life that way. I leave the mail a little bit too long sometimes in my newspapers, but I'm trying to model that behavior at home. Every time I move something, I put it back where I took it from.
Also, since I'm a widower, if somebody comes into my house, I can't blame something on somebody else leaving stuff there. So my house is in such a situation that the realtor could walk in right now and give me a listing.
Oh, boy, look at you go. Meticulous, Phil, meticulous.
I got that from my mom and dad.
Phil, I appreciate the call. It comes to you honestly from mom and dad. I get it. Passed down through the generations from grandparents too. But I am ready. I have long been ready for this movement. If you're coming over, come on over. My house is my house. I live in it. It looks just like your house. I don't have to tidy it before you come over. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Look, it's an honest mess. When you come over, I want to see you, and I don't care. I mean, I live in this house. If you don't like the way I live, don't come over. I'm behind this movement where you don't clean up before company comes. Ernie, Stephanie, if you want to hang on the line, we'll get to your calls because the next hour is open line radio for the Talkback. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
Take out the papers and the trash, or you don't get no spending cash.
Don't talk back.
Just finish cleaning up your room. Let's see that dust fly with that broom. Get all that garbage outside. Or you don't go out Friday night. Jaggedy yak.
Don't talk back.
Yeah, don't talk back to your parents when they tell you to go clean your room. We've been talking about this new movement where people don't tidy up their houses before company comes over. And I'm here for it. This is my house. This is how I live. You don't like it. Maybe I don't like you. Jim sends an email to Mike at 570news.com. Why clean before someone comes over? Because that's the only time we ever do the cleaning. Jim, I hope you have people over frequently, like 2 or 3 times a week, I hope. Let's go to the phones. Stephanie, good afternoon.
Hi, Mike. Yes, I do not clean before a company comes. My house is decent, not spotless, but decent.
Yeah, see, it's lived in, right?
People that do it drive me crazy, and I do have family members. Never have people over because, well, I have to clean the house. So no. Also on a different subject, well, same subject, but different view. I am struggling with my front foyer looking too clean the last couple of weeks since my boys left. I used to have anywhere between 15 and 20 pairs of shoes tidily lined up. Now I'm down like to 2 pair. And that's making me sad, not really driving me crazy.
I can understand that, Stephanie, for sure. For sure. Well, you hang in there. Hang out with us. We'll keep you company for a bit, okay?
Okay.
Okay. Thanks for the call. Good to hear from you today. See, most of us keep a pretty tidy home in general anyway. So what if there's some papers around when you come over? Ernie, good afternoon.
Hey, Mike. First of all, I'm going to tell you, I don't ever get sick of that song. The
Yakety Yak?
It's weird. I don't get sick of it. I always just and the kids bob their heads if they're around when it comes on. Anyways.
I love it.
So we have 3 kids and all under 5. The house is going to be a mess a lot of the time. Like when people come over, we need to do our tidy ups and stuff like that. But also too, we have a pool. So and I'm very sociable. So we have people over all the time, especially in the summer with the pool open, families. And generally it's decent. We try to make it decent, but come on, I got 3 kids. It's a disaster a lot of the time.
Exactly, sure.
And my mom is super judgmental. Like the one time I had family coming over, my sister showed up an hour early. I'm like, what are you doing? She's like, I'm just coming here to clean. I don't want mom to. I'm like, are you kidding me? So that was that happened one time. The last time I'm just like, Mom, we're both working here. We got 3 kids. She's like, well, I had 9 and my house was always whatever. And I'm like, Mom, you're a stay-at-home mom. That's a different story too. So that's where it comes into the reality picture of the Christmas card I sent you. So I did a really nice, the boring family where everyone smiles Christmas thing. And then I did the reality. That's what life's like Christmas card, right?
Absolutely.
And just a quick side note, away from everything else, this bugged me yesterday. So that by-election that's no by-election, but how that vote didn't count in Quebec there. And one vote. Mike, come on, is that democracy, Mike? You're basically saying to that voter that voted, your vote doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think we're going to get this one fixed, Ernie. I think we'd better get this one fixed.
So because like that, and especially because how crucial that one seat really is right now to either side. It's like, come on, this is too fishy. I don't like it. Make it just make it right. Run the by-election.
Agreed. Well, I think we'll get this one sorted.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Ernie. Appreciate it. If you don't know the story, it is pretty wild. So in Terrebonne, in this riding in Quebec, it was initially, and it's always been a pretty tight race, but held by the Bloc, and the Bloc won, but by 45-ish votes. So, of course, that automatically triggers a recount. The recount goes through, and the Liberals end up winning the seat by 1 vote. 1. I've never known, and I've heard from a few other political science experts who have never heard of a 1-vote margin of victory. But that's what happened. Liberals get the seat after the recount. But wait, there's more. Yet another twist in this saga, which is a woman who mailed in her ballot, and it was returned to her because the pre-addressed envelope that Elections Canada sent had an incorrect postal code on it. So you get you do your work as a voter, right? To do your mail-in ballot, you fill it out, you mail it back, but the envelope they gave you, Elections Canada gave you, had an incorrect postal code on it. So Canada Post sends it back to you. By the time it gets back to you, it's too late to submit as a mail-in ballot. You've missed the election. So your vote never got counted. And she says she voted for the bloc, but I will not, and I admire her for this, she says she will not open that envelope unless it's in front of a judge so they can see that the vote was for the bloc, and then all of a sudden you've got a tie. We are hearing today that Bloc leader Yves Francois Blanchet is going to challenge the outcome of the election. And I think we can understand why he would do that. Imagine, though, right from Elections Canada, oops, sorry, we put the wrong postal code on the return envelope, and we put the postal code. It was our envelope. You didn't write it yourself. We made the mistake. Kyle, you're on Talkback. Good afternoon.
I'd like to file a missing players report for 2 players named Matthews and Marner.
Wow. No, they were there. They were helping assist on Florida goals last night, both of them.
Oh, I thought they were helping give people their water when they were coming off the bench there.
Easy.
You know?
Okay.
You know, I heard that there are some pretty nice Callaways that are for sale right now for you guys. You guys are going to get ready for, a beautiful day today, go golfing.
Kyle, hang on. There's a hockey game tomorrow. There's a hockey game tomorrow, pal.
Get those Sharpies put away because nobody's going to want those autographs anymore. You might as well just say goodbye and you give Friday's game a salute, and we'll see you guys at the golf course.
Okay.
So
I gotta go. Here, these are my 2 favorite things. Honest to goodness. Yeah, look, the Leafs got trounced last night. It was not great. But I was fascinated just scrolling Twitter, listening to all and reading all the, oh my God, this is the, well, blah, blah, blah. The season's not over. It's not over. Yes, you lost the game and you lost it in spectacular fashion. But the series is not over. So you've got the Leafs fans who just think the world has ended. And then you've got fans like Kyle of teams that shall not be named. And I was getting it from my coworkers around here too, who just love to they relish these moments where Leafs fans are suffering and the Leafs are on the brink. Whatever. Talk to me on Monday. We'll see how things look then. And who knows? But save your post-mortem until the corpse is cold. We still get to play tomorrow night. We continue on the Talkback Hour. First-time caller Dan coming up right after this on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. All right, let's get right back to the phones on Talkback. 519-570-2545, star 570, and 1-800-570-5715. Dan, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mike.
I understand, Dan, this is the first time you've ever called the show?
Well, I did a long time ago, years ago, when Brian was still on the air. I think I called once.
Well, you're welcome to call this show anytime. Yes! I love my first-timers, Dan. Welcome.
Okay, thank you. I have just received this morning from the WaterlooChronicle.ca the message that get ready for higher grocery prices due to tariffs, the Loblaw CEO warns. Now, the question I have for you, as you were in the news, is my understanding was tariffs were put on a product by the government of the country that it's coming into and not when they export it. Am I wrong in my understand? Because I thought that with all the products that come from Canada, they were throwing on a 25% import duty or tariff.
That is correct.
So what is this then that Loblaw is claiming that they're going to have in a couple of months over 6,000 products that they're going to have to pay duty or import fees on?
Right.
That just doesn't make sense. Is the Canadian government charging its own people an import duty, or is...
Well, we have applied or created a suite of reciprocal tariffs, right, to kind of get back at the United States. So, and I think where Florida Orange is not one, I can't remember, honest with you, Dan. But yes, we have reciprocal tariffs. So there may be some tariffs on what Loblaws is importing because of Canadian tariffs, or I don't know how many times in their supply chain things would go back and forth and what impact tariffs would have on that. But the bottom line is, I think it's a really convenient excuse to charge people more money.
Well, I do too, because I saw somebody write something like punching yourself in the face after a bully punches you. When you have to charge all the tariffs coming in to Canadians who need we all need food, right? So why would we have our Canadian government charge us tariffs on something we need? It just doesn't make sense to me. The U.S. government has obviously said that they don't need anything from us. So by charging tariffs on products coming in, it will make no difference to them, right? If we charge tariffs to our own people on U.S. products, they want to sell us the products. They just don't want to buy our products. So how is us charging tariff to ourselves for U.S. products going to hurt them? We are 1/30th of the population of the United States?
About a tenth.
A tenth?
Yeah. Okay. Listen, Dan, I get you. I hear you. It's frustrating. Remember this, right? And I said this at the very beginning of the quote-unquote tariff war. This all happens at a level whereby the people imposing the tariffs will not be affected by them at all or virtually unaffected by them. And ultimately, it's going to trickle right down to us. And we are going to pay those prices, literally and figuratively. So here we are. Robbie English, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir. How are you?
I'm all right. How are you?
I'm all right. I work on the premise that I'm 57 years old. I've been an England soccer fan since I was probably, 4. So you kind of get used to disappointment and watching absolutely unbelievable games that destroy your inner soul and being in its entirety. Can you imagine? I know it's not over. I know we ain't a corpse yet. We've still got a couple of knife blades between our shoulder blades after last night, but can you imagine the conversation we'd be having if we were talking about our beautiful blue and red boys?
What would we be saying?
Wow, I mean, that was... the only thing Austin Matthews did last night was that stupid little tongue spit he does like a baby lizard while he's leaning over the bench. Do captains not have a... what's the word? I'm just eating, so my digestion's taken over my brain. Do they not have a place in the game to actually be losing their minds on the bench and screaming at every single one of their own team players to actually try and light a fire under these guys? Or is it just the captain's job to take the salary and sit there doing the silly little lizard spit as if they were up by 6 goals in Game 5? I mean, riddle me that one, Batman. I mean, that display last night, if that had been the Rangers on a Friday night, I'd have been driving down 7-8 towards my house at 10 o'clock at night, losing my mind. I've never seen such an unenergetic, lackluster, half-assed effort in a team that really, really should be... We should be the winners from last year, not Florida. It's soul destroying. It really is. And last night's game, I'll leave you with this, is the reason why I watch OHL, and I'm dedicated to OHL, and I haven't watched the Leafs regular season game in the last couple of years because I refuse to waste 3 hours of my time 3 times a week actually watching that shower of proverbial poop prima donna prance around the ice as if they're entitled to earn the salaries that they earn. So hopefully, go Leafs on Friday. We ain't dead yet, but if they play like that in Florida, it's going to be a lot worse than 6-1. Take care, buddy.
Thanks, Robbie. I appreciate it. Look, there are lots of things here. I don't know why, to be honest with you. I don't know why I am so ambivalent to all of this. I was not obviously I didn't like the outcome. I'm as big a Leafs fan as anybody. I did not enjoy last night's game. I certainly did not enjoy last night's outcome. But I'm finding I'm not going to manufacture any rage because that would be dishonest and inauthentic. And I'm neither of those things. I don't know. Maybe I'm just numb to it. That's possible. Yeah, the Leafs played a terrible game. But it's funny, Robbie talks about not watching any regular season games, not wasting his time on it. The Leafs won their division for the first time in 25 years. They won their division. They were better than Florida in the regular season. So I enjoyed the games that I did get to watch. I've enjoyed watching the Leafs in these playoffs, last night notwithstanding. The Florida Panthers, this Leafs team hasn't been able to get done. Maybe they're just not good enough. The Florida Panthers are the defending champs. Maybe that's the kind of team that we need in Toronto. I don't know. I'm just having a hard time. I don't care they lost last night. The series isn't over. The series is not over. And sure, on Monday, after the weekend, when the series is over, they'll either have won or lost by then. And you can laugh at me and make all the fun you want because it'll be another year in my life. I have not seen the Leafs even reach a Stanley Cup final in my lifetime. They haven't even made it as far or far enough to get the chance at winning the Stanley Cup. They've never even been one of the final two teams in my entire life. And I looked at last night, I'm like, yeah, whatever. What am I missing here? It ain't over yet. I'm going to keep saying it. It is not over yet. Talkback continues too. It's not over yet on the Mike Farwell Show. 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Just ahead of our update in the 570 News Center, I know we can squeeze in another one. Andre, you got about 45 seconds.
Squeeze. Just like you said, Mike, about Florida's goalie. He's not there. He hasn't been there.
Florida's goalie? He's been amazing.
40 seconds. And then Matthew Austin, he is not doing what he's doing. They have all the players. They have the money. And that's why I'm not a Leaf fan, because I'm too weak to be a fanatic. But, I'm calling Mike because we have 7 teams in Canada, and I don't know how many in the States. We can do the math.
25.
I'm very proud of our Canadian teams to show up like they do. We are true north, and go Canada, NHL.
All right, go Canada, NHL. I never said anything about Bobrovsky not being there. He's been terrific. It was like 140 minutes without a goal being scored. But the series is not over. Talkback continues on the Mike Farwell Show. 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Let's get right back to the phones. Hear more from you on Talkback this afternoon. Linda, you're next. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Enjoying this wonderful weather.
Indeed.
Yes. I was calling, somebody had called in about the laws like rising the prices.
Yes. How did tariffs impact that?
Well, my thing is not all about the tariffs, but and of course the tariffs, but we almost have to adapt to what's happening. And I've adapted well. I'm a 70-year-old grandma. I lost my husband 17 months ago. So that meant losing all of his income, like OAS and the CPP. So I've learned to adapt with food the hard way. I've don't buy meats anymore, only once a month. 2 times a month I have my grandkids over, so I will cook meat for them, and then I'll save some for the next day. And that's the only time throughout the month I'll eat meat. And then I do like salmon, so I buy at Costco, I buy the 6 individual packages. I think you can get them for $18, so I'll have that during the month. And that's it. I've cut out meat and food, like fish.
I love salmon too, Linda. I appreciate the call, and I understand, that's kind of what we have to do, right? We kind of have to figure out how to make it work with this increased cost of living. Where can we make some cuts? And for Linda, sadly, it's in some of the things that she eats, but maybe she's just choosing less expensive things and cuts back on the amount of meats and salmons that she might be consuming. Terry, over to you on Talkback. Good afternoon.
Hey, good afternoon, Mike. Just something small here. Winning, I think, is overrated anyway. Why don't you just pick a team every year? There's over 100 of them in North America to choose from.
That's true.
Whoever wins, that's the team that you root for. Then there's less stress and less anxiety.
So, but then I would only be cheering for the team that won the previous year.
That's correct.
Yeah, but I don't...
Just hope there's a dynasty. Maybe
yeah, that's the thing. What are the chances? I might have as good a chance of seeing a winner then, Terry, as I do now being a Leafs fan.
True. Hey, Mike, do you have a price to dump the Leafs as a fan?
No, I'm way too loyal.
Hang on to
no,
it?
I'm hanging.
Well,
whatever.
let me tell you a little story. I'll be quick. My brother in the 70s, we were growing up, teenagers, whatever. His favorite team was that team you don't like. He'd sit at the dinner table wearing his red, blue and white jersey with number 10 on it. Guy Lafleur was his favorite player.
I would have lost my appetite.
Anyway, holding his hockey stick, wolfing down his food and go out and play road hockey. But in 1984, he dumped that team. You know why? Not because they weren't winning, because they were fresh off winning like 4 Stanley Cups in a row. You know why he dumped that team for life?
Because they traded Lafleur.
That's correct. So Jacques Lemaire was the reason he dumped that team. And he was the biggest fan of that team. And I'm telling you, Mike, if you don't like, if you want a winner, jump off that team and hook onto another. Because if my brother can do it, anybody can.
All right, Terry.
And one quick thing, Jacques Lemaire killed both Wayne Gretzky and Guy Lafleur, because when he implemented that stupid neutral zone trap, just look at Wayne Gretzky's stats after that. He went from scoring 200 points a season to 140, whatever. He's still a great player, but he wasn't what he was because that neutral zone trap killed hockey.
All right,
it stifled it. Anyway, Mike, have a good day. Thank you.
Thanks, Terry. So true story. 1998. I remember because I was working in Thunder Bay at the time, and as a frustrated Leafs fan, more than 25 years ago, I was on my way to work. And I'm like, you know what? I'm done with this team. I'm done with this team. They don't even try. They're not even doing anything to make it blah, blah, blah. They're not even making the effort to keep me as a fan. Unless they do something in this off season, so the 98 going into the 98-99 campaign, I said, that's it. I'm done with them. And I kid you not, that very day, I got to work and the Leafs announced the free agent signing of Curtis Joseph. I'm like, well, they're trying. They're like, it's like they were listening to me. They answered my prayers right there, and Curtis Joseph cuts. Now, I know they haven't won a Stanley Cup since, but that day, I said, if they don't do something this offseason, I'm out. And that very day, they signed a big-name free agent. The funny thing is, the team I had decided on my walk to work that day that I would start cheering for if I abandoned the Leafs were the Carolina Hurricanes, who have since won a Stanley Cup and who are still in the Stanley Cup playoffs and leading their series today. Look at what could have happened, but nope. I am loyal to my Leafs, and I'm going to stay that way. And one of these days, they'll reward me for it, right? John, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mike. It's John from Hespeler.
Hespeler, Johnny.
A couple of things. First of all, I just want to thank Mr. Hamilton for putting his name out there in service, and it's appreciated. I would say this. I think there are way, way, way bigger fish to fry in the city of Cambridge than how much road salt we're using. And it troubles me a little bit that our council is going to spend time and energy and money on that when we have way bigger problems here. So let's just get our priorities straight, guys, please. Thanks, Mike.
All right, Johnny, appreciate the call. Cambridge City Councillor for Ward 7, Scott Hamilton, was on the show earlier today talking about the motion that he is bringing forward for discussion on May the 27th. So in a couple of weeks to, yes, as Hespeler Johnny points out, reduce the amount of road salt and sidewalk salt and parking lot salt that we use on an annual basis, much like a motion that was brought to Waterloo Council a few weeks ago as well. More and more municipalities across this province bringing forward such motions in order to cut down on the harm caused to the environment and our infrastructure by the use of all of that salt. But one of the things, the most important thing about it that we will need is provincial law around limited liability. If we get limited liability legislation from the provincial government, maybe, just maybe, we can go about using less. Until we get that, though, limited liability legislation, it's going to be awfully tough, because those places that are charged with keeping sidewalks safe and clear of snow and ice and parking lots and roads, etc., they get sued if they don't do their job well enough. So unless you can limit that liability, I don't think we're going to see a whole lot less use of salt. Talkback continues on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. I was listening earlier this week to Rob Snow, And he was talking about cost of living and being middle class in this country. And when we talked to Linda a moment ago, it got me thinking about that again. So Linda was talking about the cost of living and grocery costs going up and what she does in order to keep her own grocery costs in check, right? Cooking a little extra and making sure she eats it as leftovers, maybe not eating as much of the meats and the fishes that are more expensive, etc. But it just got me thinking again, and this even came up in conversation while I was out Farwell for hiring myself yesterday. And the quote-unquote customer, you see, I hire myself out for odd jobs, and the customer, if you will, pays me by way of donation to cystic fibrosis. So it turns out that the lady for whom I did a job yesterday is a friend. She's been with the campaign for goodness knows how many years now. We've done all sorts of things over the years to get donations from Sandy for Farwell for Hire and cystic fibrosis research. So Sandy and I got to talking about this too because she had been listening to Rob Snow. So he was talking about a middle class income in Canada being around $75,000 a year after taxes. I tried to find out where his source was on that number. But I can't really find it because $75,000 after taxes. I mean, you're $100 and a bit, aren't you? Before taxes, if you're taking home $75,000, right? You're probably about $110,000 if you're taking home $75,000. But Rob, I found it really interesting because Rob was talking about that middle class income and middle class lifestyle. So you're making this $75K after taxes, and that means you're paying the mortgage and you got enough to buy groceries. And, if something bad happens, you got a little bit tucked away for an emergency, that sort of thing. You can eat out at a restaurant when you want to eat out. You can take that trip every year. And, that was the definition of middle class. And I've been thinking about that quite a bit. And I don't know about you, but this is what struck me in all of it. Because I've complained for quite a bit that I think the middle class has moved on me here. And I find myself, I think, still struggling to get into it. Because I'll tell you what, if that is the definition of middle class, I will tell you, and again, you're $75,000 after taxes, eating out at restaurants here and there, having that, money left over to take a trip every year, et cetera. I feel like I grew up in a very middle class lifestyle or world. We were a one-income family because mom was stay-at-home, and we did have 5 kids. So keep that all in mind. But I remember as a kid, going out to eat at McDonald's was a treat. Like, it was a big deal to go to McDonald's. And we didn't go there a whole heck of a lot. And a vacation every year? Are you seriously? Not even a little bit. We did, I remember because I was getting older before we all turned 16. We took 2 big family vacations together. One down east to visit a relative, and another time we got on an airplane and flew to California. Those were big, hairy deals that came later in our childhoods that I know my parents saved for and saved enormously for. But I thought about, like, is middle class now defined by the ability to have a week in Mexico every year, or, wherever you go in the winter months and all those sorts of things? I don't know. So maybe it wasn't just the middle class shifting on me because things got so expensive. Maybe our definition of what middle class means has changed too, because I can tell you, and I like to remind people, like, I'm woefully under-traveled. I'm pretty envious of people who get to travel an awful lot, but I'll tell you what, I don't have the money for it. I just don't. Like, if you can do that, I think you might be. If that's middle class, I'm not there. Is I guess what I'm getting at here. I guess I'm not middle class. I wanted to be middle class. I thought I was middle class. Got a roof over my head. We have enough to pay the mortgage. We get to eat out every now and again, which we enjoy doing. But honestly, when I compare it to being a kid, I didn't feel like I wanted for anything. Everything was fine. But McDonald's was a treat. And a vacation every year, forget about it. We were fortunate, had a cottage in the family that we would go to. It was my grandparents' place. so we could go there and spend some time at the beach. So I get, maybe that counts, but I think that maybe, just maybe, and again, I'll go back to what Linda said, we have just decided we need more things, more stuff that we're spending our money on, and that maybe makes it tougher to stay in the middle class or have that money put away for retirement. I don't know. But it just struck me when I was listening to Rob before, and I don't know what that was earlier this week, and I don't know what your perspective on middle class is, but man, if you've got enough left over for a vacation every single year, dang it, I think you're doing pretty darn okay. Not to mention all the other things that we find to spend our money on, like those packages that just magically show up on your porch when you go on your phone and click a few buttons. This is the Talkback Hour on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. I love all the passion around the Toronto Maple Leafs today. Earlier this morning, got a call from Joe when we were talking about the Wilmot Land Assembly, and he still wanted to talk about the Leafs and their loss last night. And the emails also started early today. Phil writes to Mike at 570news.com. Mr. Mike, the word on the street is that the Leafs are going to Farwell for hire you as their netminder. Any truth to that? No truth to that whatsoever, Phil. I would make a terrible goaltender. In Joseph Wall, remember that. A couple of days ago, Leafs fans were singing that Joseph Wall was their wonder wall, right? They were singing Oasis about the wonder wall that is Joseph Wall. And now all of a sudden, you want me in net? Come on with your coming on. And Ron's email to Mike at 570news.com. Hope your beer was not too salty. I think that means because of the salt in my tears, Ron. I will say it again, Ron writes. The Leafs team was built to put bums in seats, not to win cups. If they want to win, they have to tear apart the team and do some deals. Time for the fans to boycott the Leafs, and I bet you heads will roll and the team will scramble to make a winning/playoff team. Ron, I'm here to tell you that ain't nobody, no how, going to boycott the Leafs. And this is a winning team. It won their division this year. It is a playoff team. And now here's the beauty of the Leafs' position, right? Nobody is going to give up on them now because you don't want to not be there when they finally win. That's where we're at, right? I'm watching these games. I'm like, whatever. This is how it's going to be. Another year, another disappointment. But this series is not over yet. We get to play again tomorrow night, Leafs fans. And then you can be angry again, if that's your choice. Or maybe you'll be talking about Joseph Wall, your wonder wall again. I don't know. Grant, you're on Talkback. Good afternoon.
Both the Rangers and the Leafs belong to each other. I watched the game, and they don't want to win. So
Grant, please.
I think they need to join the Kitchener-Waterloo Skating Club.
Okay. This is one thing that I get frustrated by. They don't want to win. I promise you. You don't have to like their performance last night by any means, okay? You don't have to like the Kitchener Rangers' performance on any given night by any means. That's fine. You can be critical of it. You can say that was a stinker. But I have never met, I do not believe for 1 second that anybody that makes it to the National Hockey League or even to the high level that is the Ontario Hockey League, you don't make it to that level and then stop trying. Sometimes you have bad nights, right? But you don't stop trying. You don't stop caring if you lose. Trust me. I refuse to believe that. Heck, I've been around in this business long enough to remember the quote-unquote radio wars where it was all about the competition and which station is better than the other station. Do you think I liked it when my station wasn't better than the other station? Hell no! I still like my station to be better than the other stations. Thank you very much. Because you don't get to a certain level without having some competitive juices flowing through your veins. All right, I got to go. You're probably tired of me for today anyway, right? Rob Snow, now you know, coming up until 3. I'll come back tomorrow morning at 9 and we'll talk then, okay? I'm Mike Farwell. Bye for now.